Hey, lovelies. I just thought I really wanted to um, do a video to send out to whoever's interested in watching this. And basically, it's responding to, I suppose, the energies that are flying around at the moment and what we're experiencing um, collectively, but also on a very personal level as well. And the reason why I wanted to, I suppose, share this is because conversations that I've had with other people, a lot of other people are experiencing very similar things. And I feel that no matter how many people see this video, whoever it reaches, people might, just gain a little bit more solidarity and a little bit more understanding and feeling that, you're not alone and we're in it together and we're all experiencing it, but also that there are ways in which we can navigate the energies that are flying around at the moment. To contextualize them a little bit, I think is a really good way to describe why I'm making this video. So basically, and I'm not an astrologer, but what I know about what's happening in the planets, and if there are any astrologers who watch this who are like, that ain't right, feel free to kindly, yeah, comment any corrections or anything. But basically, um, what I know of what's happening in astrology is we've got one, the good old classic Mercury in retrograde, which is all around communication. And so you might be finding that communication, there might be a little bit of, well, what I'm seeing like the wiring is just not there. I'm seeing the wiring as communication coming from this side and wiring as from the image of wiring representing communication coming from this side. Two different people, two different perspectives, whatever you want to call it. And and what I'm seeing here is a burnout of communication. The wires aren't connected. It's not like-mindedness, it is misunderstanding, but I can see that there's an explosion, like the wires are steaming, not steaming, smoking, sorry. So there's been a bit of an explosion of communication and explosive energy, explosive communication, miscommunication, and also, this is a really big one, impulsive communication is something to be really wary about at the moment. Now, we can't control other people and how other people communicate to us, but we can control how we respond, okay? Now, a lot of us are going to be feeling that impulsive and, that impulsive, I'm not going to call it a desire, impulsive urge to defend oneself. And because a lot of the communication that's happening at the moment is to do with core wounds, it is to do with core wounds. And with the planets, we're being brought right back to core wounds. And I know that that gets kind of like said a lot, and people are a little bit like, I know we know what core wounds are, but maybe we might be like, well, what is my core wound? I know what the meaning of a core wound is, but what's my core wound? And the information is going to be in how other people's communication to you really takes that stab to you, okay? It can feel like someone's driving a knife right to the core of that child who experienced, you know, whatever they experienced, that childhood wound. And so it's an opportunity for us to actually, when people are communicating in a way that hurts us, that's explosive, impulsive, it it's likely going to hurt. It's likely going to feel like someone is driving us. And the rage that we feel, and a lot of people are probably going to be experiencing a lot of rage. So remember, it's sacred. The rage is sacred. I say this a lot. Um, really, really see if you can just take a breath to feel what you're feeling. Because the response that you're having is actually information from your inner child, or information from the time where you acquired that wound, that core wound. And then that's also going to feed you through information about the core beliefs that you adopted around that wound, okay? Now you might feel in your body where you hold it, feel the sensations. You might feel a crack in your heart. You might feel a closing of your heart. You can feel it in different areas. I know that I have personally had things come up right back, old wounds from childhood coming up, and it's going to be likely that things are going to happen in your life at the moment that are, maybe I won't say likely, it's common that, it's a common experience for many people that things are going to be happening in your outside world, things are going to be eventuating to trigger what has been unresolved. Not only what has been unresolved, but to trigger what has been suppressed, what we have not been allowed to originally or historically express or understand, what for our own sense of survival as children, what we've needed to just go, I need to get on with life, and that what we haven't been able to process. We're going back to that, so it's going to feel like we're going back to the beginning and we're having the original wound triggered so that we can complete the healing process. The thing is that we might inhibit the healing process and the opportunity to heal it, or we can do that by trying to turn away from them, by judging them and saying that's a bad feeling, that rage is a bad feeling, that, that explosive or impulsive energy is a bad feeling. All that is your inner child going, nah, freaking no more, This is where I'm drawing the line. This is where I'm drawing the line. The rage that you feel coming up, you don't have to respond, or I'm going to say, you don't have to respond transactionally by pushing back with the same rage. You don't have to. If you do, look, it's actually okay. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're a human being. And if you're a human being that's feeling deep hurt, it's likely that you will. So I'm not talking about perfection here. What I'm talking about is looking at what's going on, no matter how we respond, and then looking at how you can use it to affect change in your life. Even if it is just to sit down and feel, even if it is just to sit down and cry, even if it is just to sit down with your inner child and go, that person who just said that to me, whether it's your parents, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone who just said that to me, really, really hurt me, and they hurt you, and I'm going to sit with you and I'm going to listen to your feelings because your feelings need to be held right now. And then what you're doing then is you're actually finding purpose in it. So it's not for nothing. It's not for nothing. If something happens and you feel hurt, and then you have the opportunity to sit down and nurse those wounds and nurse that hurt with the intention to nurse the inner child who holds that original wound, then that experience wasn't for nothing. It was an opportunity to spend time with your inner child and to nurse them, to nurture them, to love them again, okay? So that's one of the really big things. So what we've got is we've also got Mars. Look, I'm just going to say stuff that I hear astrologers say, and some of it I don't even know what it means, okay? But I know something's going on with Mars. I've forgotten whether it's like, I think Mars is in retrograde as well, I'm pretty sure, okay? And Mars is known as the planet of war. So what we've got is Mercury in retrograde, which is all about communication and communication breakdown, while we've got Mars of war potentially triggering conflict, okay? Conflicts. And I'm not going to say it's promoting war, because Mars is just like, it's an energy, okay? And every planet and everything has got its negative and positively polarized aspects, okay? But it can have the effect of bringing up conflict. And so when you've got communication breakdown with Mars in retrograde, and you've got the planet of war in retrograde, that's that is a recipe. I'm just gonna say. I'm not gonna say it's a recipe for disaster though, because we don't have to get into the mentality of we're being pummeled, even if it does feel like you're being pummeled, even if that's the experience you feel like you're having. I'm not going to do a doom and gloom video here. And please take it from me, I have recently been revisiting things in my life that have really, really challenged me, have really rocked me, and have really, really opened up these deep hurts and these deep wounds that I now have an opportunity to look at. And it has been difficult. And a few days ago, I would not have been able to make this video with such clarity. So please do not take my ability to articulate this, or my ability to kind of deliver this in an anchored way. Don't take that as me being someone who doesn't know what it's like to navigate and traverse these experiences. I do, which is exactly why I'm making the video in the first place, because I am living the experience of it, okay? But then what we've got now, so we've got those two planets, but there's something else, and this is actually my favorite one. We've got Pluto. Now, I don't know, I have forgotten whether it's stationing direct or if it's squaring. Something to do with it being stationing direct to, or squaring the sun. I'm pretty sure it's squaring the sun, something like that. Something to do with it having a strong face-off with the sun. Now, Mars is the planet of death and rebirth. Okay, so we have got, and the fact that it's facing the sun means that something is being illuminated here. Illuminated. It means that what no longer serves us is being illuminated. And the death and rebirth, we're going right back to core wounds. We are going right back to the I am. We're going right back to I am, and how we essentially feel about ourselves. So it's all happening. It's all happening. And with that, with it being illuminated with the sun, it means that if you allow it to be, and if you would like it to be, because I always have this strong feeling that we all have free will. It's not a strong feeling, I believe that, but in terms of the feeling or the attitude, I think, is a better way to describe it. The attitude when I'm ever giving a reading or a healing or making these videos is that we all have free will, and I respect other people's free will to not to take the messages or not take the messages, and whether or not someone takes it or not is absolutely none of my business, and it doesn't make anyone else better or lesser whether they do or not. So yes, but we've got that happening with Pluto at the moment, death and rebirth. So we might be feeling it, because what we're doing is we are ushering up, and what I can see to my left is like, I can see it as like it's gunk. Like really, really, when I'm saying dredging up, like think about the word dredge, and it's like kind of, when you're dredging something, I'm getting this gunk, it's all of this black kind of gunk coming up now, and it's all of the residue, but it's not just the residue, it is it. We're landing on where the wound has been, and we're also being called to kind of, We're being called to have a look at this space and to reflect on, right, have I been doing the healing work? If I have been doing the healing work, how am I responding to this now? How is this different to other times that this has been triggered? And for a lot of us, it will be different. It may still appear as though, oh my God, nothing's changed at all. Nothing's changed. We're right back here. We're right back to where we used to be decades ago. But we have an opportunity now with Pluto facing the sun. We actually have an opportunity to actually look at it and go, oh, actually, no, this ain't it for me. This ain't my story. This ain't my story. And so if you want to communicate like that, you can take that and you can take it somewhere else, basically. If you want to treat me like that, that ain't going to happen. If you want to, if that's your choice, and everyone has a choice, if that's your choice too, it ain't going to happen anymore. You are bye-bye, you are gone, and you don't have to lack compassion in that, but there is a difference between being forceful and being assertive. Being assertive is really good. It's called developing sovereignty and self-authority, okay? Sovereignty over your own boundaries, over your own life, over your own energy fields, over your own psychological well-being and safety. We all have the right to maintain psychological safety, spiritual, emotional, and embodied safety as well. Never forget the body. The body comes along with the journey with us. The body is a big part of this, and this is where I talk a lot about the body. I love embodiment and somatics. This is it's a big time, okay? It is a big time. You may be overthinking. Your mind might be just looping. Overthinking is a lot in this because what has been triggered from the past is activating the place in the mind that had to overthink in order to get you to safety. It had to ruminate, it had to strategize, it had to fixate in order for you to look at the landscape and go, it's like having those arguments and those inner wars, Mars, the planet of war, those inner wars inside your head, those inner conversations, those hypothetical conversations that you're having with other people who may have hurt you in the past, where you're having these conversations that play out you trying to defend yourself over and over again, or justify your right to safety, or justify your right to make the choices that are best for you and in alignment with your highest good. You don't have to justify anything. And this is actually one of the challenging spaces to get to, is that you just have to do it. You just have to live the justification. I'm not sure if that actually made sense. I'm going to rephrase that. What you feel like you need to justify, just do it. If it's experiencing joy, just go and do it. Go and live your life. If it's chasing the dreams that you wanted, just do it. If it's laying down boundaries and deciding that someone in your family or in your life no longer gets to have access to you, just do it. Because the chances are, if you've come this far, then they're not going to listen or respect that anyway. You can explain why it's important, like communicating is important, but if someone's not safe to communicate to, you don't actually owe them a justification, because people need to earn the right to actually have you take the time to articulate your emotions, okay? If people are actually feeling like they are benefiting in some way from eroding your boundaries or eroding your voice, then They're not going to rationalize the justifications, or it is unlikely that they're going to rationalize in their own head the justifications in the first place. So you can lay them down, put them up, and then just live them. Because the more you fixate with trying to convince the person that is eroding your boundaries and your sense of safety and your sense of self, remember that's important, the sense of self here, the sense of I am, who am I? If we've got someone trying to step in and erode that space, and we're trying to justify to them why you're doing it, it is very rare that they are going to listen and rationalize. People can do that. And so I'm not saying don't take the time to have the conversations. I'm not saying don't give people the opportunity to change. But the boundaries actually are the opportunity. Your rules of engagement, it's this, and that, and these are my no's. These are my yeses, and these are my no's. They are the opportunity. They are the opportunity because that gives other people the opportunity to look at the boundaries and go, right, if I want to be in this person's life, these are the changes I need to make. And I need to look at what I'm doing in my life and myself and where I feel like I am lacking within in order to be able to know that I can respect those. Look at why I'm not respecting those in the first place. And if you are someone who, arguably, we probably all cross over each other's boundaries in some way or another. That doesn't mean that we're the villain. It doesn't mean that we are the devil, that we are malevolent. If we are willing to look at it, if we are willing to look at it, if we are willing to do the work and self-inquiry. Okay. So, and usually that for me personally, that's the decider, is when I see people who have overstepped my boundaries and I communicate that to them and I can see that they are, one, listening with intent. They have the intention to listen, to actually hear my feelings and my experiences, and then go and at least attempt, begin a process of changing. Begin a process because, no one changes overnight. Some people can change really quickly, but not everyone can. And so, but it's looking at people start to identify when they do it and start to put in their own parameters and their own boundaries with their own behavior. No, I'm actually not willing to do that. Or I did it again. What habit is that? What habit is that? What pattern is that? And why am I doing it? And I'm going to acknowledge it and apologize and also give that person the opportunity to say, sorry, I can't do that anymore. Because in the end, if someone is hurting us and costing us, or if we are hurting and costing someone else, they have the right, and we all have the right to actually go, even if someone is trying, this is where it can get a little bit tricky, because even if it's someone we love and we see that they are trying, if it is costing us our health and safety, sometimes we do have to just go, look, I really, really love you. I love you. I love you so much, but I actually love myself. And I love myself so much so that I need to take some space. You go and heal. And maybe down the track, there might be time where we can spend together. It might be time later on that we can spend together, but this ain't it, because I've got to put up my, I'm not even going to say shields, because we're not closing ourselves off from the world. What we're doing is we are disconnecting the modes of communication and the engagements and the chords and the energy kind of connections with people who are kind of, being the vampire or debilitating us or pulling us apart. Because the aim of the game is to become whole. The aim of the game is to begin to remember what it feels like to be whole in the heart be safe to love and be safe to accept love. Okay. So those are basically that's the crux of it. That's the crux of it. And I'm encouraging everyone to not just. I find that in a lot of these kinds of videos and spiritual spaces, that when we describe these kinds of experiences, that it can actually opt into victim mentality again, because we always a lot of the time in these videos we describe the aggressor as being out there, as being, oh no, the big baddie is out there. But one inhibits us from taking responsibility. And when I say taking responsibility, it is the self-empowerment to act and create change in our lives. That we actually have the power to create change in our lives, and we do. But also, it assumes that you can only ever be the victim of something and not the person who's doing it. And it's really, really, really important. I feel that it's important in these, in these healing spaces and in these, whatever you want to call it, healing, mental health, whatever is the right term for you, is that we shift the discussion up a little bit with our language and start to really go, this is actually, we all got that shadow. We all got that shadow. The duality that we're seeing out in the world is also the duality that we're experiencing in here. And the only way that we can actually get to a place of feeling whole, or feeling oneness within ourselves, to heal that fracture, to heal that core wound, is to acknowledge that as a human being, and it's part of, when you have been, if you have felt dehumanized, a part of being a human being is also going, I actually also, as an imperfect human, have the capabilities of also, causing harm or having a negative effect on those around me. And that's really, really important. The reason why it's important is that when you don't acknowledge it, it goes unchecked, and then that's when it can develop into toxicity. That's when it can develop into a behavioral cycle that overbears. It overbears you. It overbears onto others. It encroaches. It becomes pervasive, and I think that that's actually where you can really kind of struggle a little bit, or where the planet of war, where Mars can really, really, put you into action in that battlefield, in a way that is really, I mean that in kind of a sense that can be destructive for yourself and for others. And so, looking at where that is all happening within is really, really, really important as well. It's called taking responsibility. Yeah. To finish up this video, I just want to talk about, this is about essentially, inner child work, and we're returning to the inner child now. Now, the discussions that we are going to be hearing around the world, in our community, I'm going to encourage you to just return back to your inner child. Okay. Do not allow yourself to be wavered or thrown off course. I have no idea why my hand is doing that. But do not allow yourself to be wavered or thrown off course. Whenever you are feeling something, go back to nurturing your inner child. Get to know your inner child in all of the different ways that you can. Moving beyond sentiments, moving beyond actions that really haven't felt like that may have felt superficial, really understanding that your inner child is actually still alive. They're not an idea of the past. They're not a symbol of the past. They're alive inside of you. You can have an active relationship. You can walk with your inner child. You can hold your inner child's hand and walk them through the pain that they have felt, okay? You can heal them. You can become your own parent, and you can become your inner child and re-embody your inner child and explore what healing means through through bringing playfulness into your life again, bringing joy, and also sitting with your inner child and asking your child what part of them wasn't heard, what part of them wasn't heard or hasn't been heard and hasn't been listened to. And then sometimes all you have to do is listen back. Listen back. Write it down, draw it, paint it. The activities that you feel are strong for you, the activities, whether it's a creative activity to help process it and understand it, go to those and get to know your inner child in that way. It's going to be really, really, really important. The inner child work is going to be really, really vital. It's going to be very, very vital. Because when you get to know about them and who they are, and, we don't just have to acknowledge our inner child and their pain. The shadow work is really important, but get to know who your inner child is and what they love. What did you love as an inner child that maybe you forgot about, or maybe you've put to the wayside, or that your inner child was not allowed to feel safe or confident in expressing? What did they love? Who are they? Who were they and who are they? That's how you get to discover who you really are. Who you really are. That's a part of the process of becoming whole again. So that's very, very important. And just one more thing before I go, on that note of inner child work. Also take note of how you respond to your own inner child. When you were listening, or when you were reflecting, or even thinking about your inner child and who you were as a child, think about what comes up, your responses. Some might be heartbreak, some might be joy, might be irritation and frustration. You might feel revolted by even thinking about your inner child or listening to their voice. And it's okay to be honest about that. It's important to be honest about that. If when you were listening to your inner child and thinking about them, reflecting on them, if you do have aversions, or if you do have a quote unquote negative response or reaction to it, that's your place of inquiry as well. Because I'm 100% certain. Now, there's always variations, so I'm very, very, very certain that is subsequent of you adopting a belief system about yourself as a child that is someone else's belief system. Maybe a parent, a teacher, an adult. What it is it's actually very likely you looking at yourself through the perspective of someone who disrespected you, or maybe who mistreated you, or made you feel small or low or unvalued, who devalued you in some kind of way. So that can actually, you can use the blocks or whatever is kind of like, the aversions or whatever, however it shows up for you. You can use that as a tool to heal by, first of all, the first thing you need to remind yourself of is, whose opinion is this? Because I know it's not mine. I know it's not really mine. It's an adopted belief system, an adopted belief, opinion that actually, and perspective that belongs to someone else. And you inquire about that. Then you'll start to view yourself and see yourself and your inner child in a new light. That's it. And I hope that this has been helpful for whoever has watched. And I'm wishing you all a safe journey through this next little while. Apparently things are going to shift and become a little bit more easier in February. So just navigate through, be your own best friend, your own healer, and do the things that you love to do that you know are true for you. Thanks for watching. Sending biggest love to whoever's watching, and take good care. Stay safe.